You're recording? Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
great.
So we can get started. We usually start around this time. So welcome everyone to Reclaim Your Power to Create and Heal. We are in the studio with contemporary folk artist Neha Misra. Yay! And Neha's also one of SSTCI's superstar board members. So, and she's got her many fellow poets here. In addition to being an artist, Neha is a poet and creative connector. And she has so many connections within the community, and we're so glad you could join us. And this is our first event as we celebrate Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And we just put out an announcement of some of our events we have coming up. On the 14th, we have pictures from a Hiroshima schoolyard with filmmaker Brian Reichart and producer Shizumi Shigeto Manale. And that's Friday, May 14th. That's a wonderful story, documentary film about a school in Hiroshima that exchanged drawings and artwork with a school here in DC right after World War II. And then they found the artwork in a church right here in DC, and then went back and visited those former students who are now seniors and shared their memories. On May 17th, we have a wonderful doll maker telling the stories of Asian and Asian American heroines through portrait dolls. So that's with doll maker Linda Cato. Monday, May 17th, a must-see program, another must-see program. And then on May 19th, we have Nilima Devi and her daughter Anila Kumari telling the story of Lakshmi, the luminous one in dance, story, and poetry. That's on Wednesday, May 19th. So Nilima Devi is a wonderful South Indian dancer, choreographer with Sutradhar Institute of Dance in Silver Spring. And her daughter is also a dancer, choreographer, and they will be sharing the story of Lakshmi. And then we have a special discussion, Asian American Images in Film, Media, and the Arts, with Christian O he's an old friend of mine. He's with the Asian Pacific American Film Festival, and he'll be joined by other filmmakers and others discussing the portrayal of Asians and Asian Americans in film and the media and the arts. All of our events are made possible with generous support from Montgomery County, United Therapeutics, the Arts and Humanities of Montgomery County, Maryland State Arts, and many others, including this month's sponsor, Lumix CPAs and advisors in this tax month that we find ourselves in. And now let's get started with the program. Reclaim Your Power to Create and Heal. Neha Misra is a contemporary visual folk artist, poet, and an award-winning global climate justice advocate with a deep belief in the power of human imagination to create new realities. Neha was born and raised in New Delhi, India. And as you know, our hearts and prayers are with India right now. I think Neha will mention this, she'll share her story about this, and we can collectively put our prayers and good thoughts in their direction as they need during this time. As an immigrant to the United States, Silver Spring is her beloved adopted home. Neha's art is a manifestation of her life's guiding star to practice beauty as a verb. Inspiration for her art comes from the diverse folk traditions, mythology, ancient history, and colorful vibrancy of her Indian heritage. Her Her immigrant experience as a woman of color in America has been a catalyst for rediscovering and reclaiming this powerful tapestry. Neha's education in physics is the foundation of her explorations at the intersections of worlds, physical and metaphysical, complex and simple, old and new. She is interested in the medicinal role of art as a source of both personal and collective healing. Threads of deep reverence and concern for our relationship with Mother Earth run through the entire body of Neha's work. Her vibrant creations bring out an enchantment with the timeless wisdom, magic, and resilience of nature, combined with a deep interest in neuroscience, to balance our left brain dominated modern world with the right brain, our spiritual and creative connection with the world within and without. Neha's creative practice is rooted in South Asian art forms, ancient Madhubani painting practiced by women, yoga, mandalas, Mughal architecture, Rangoli kolam, sacred floor art, Worli art, and henna art. Neha's intersectional identity is deeply tied to these diverse traditions that are earthy and democratic. And now let's turn it over to our featured artist, Neha Misra.
Hey there. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me well? Yeah, great. Let me share my screen here. 1 second. Okay, go here. Great. So you can see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes, great. Okay, thank you so much. So let me see, how can I see a few of you as I talk? Okay, great. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being with me today. Gift is a gift of presence is one of the biggest gift we can give each other. So I'm really, really grateful to each one of you for joining me here today. And thank you, Lisa, and all the SSTCI board members and supporters, neighbors, friends from here in the neighborhood. And I see my friends both from the DC area, and I see my very special friend, Lisa, from the West Coast part of US, from Portland. So welcome, Lisa. Thank you so much for being here as well. So yeah, I really wanted to start on, what is such a somber note. Lisa and I had planned this studio visit, my very first virtual studio visit quite a while ago. And, this recent time has been incredibly hard because India is just going through, as you know, this massive humanitarian crisis. I've been incrementally, sadly, adding candles to my altar this past week as we have heard and are hearing of family members, elders and friends, family networks passing, and so many more who are suffering. So I want to start with just a moment of silence, if we could share it. And I got my light, my LED light, which I have been putting on my portal. So yeah, with that, if we could just take few shared breaths and just, in your mind, if you want to say a prayer for both all who have departed and all who are suffering and grieving. Yeah. So we will take 3 deep breaths together. Thank you so much. So as we start into this journey, I want to take all of you on through migrations that I have gone through in from India to America to the world as life has taken me over last couple of decades. I wanted to start with this beautiful, beautiful blessing that I love to share with everybody. It's from Joy Harjo, who, as some of you may know, is the current U.S. Poet Laureate, and she's also the first native indigenous poet laureate of America, now serving in her second term. So she says in her book that I have here, Conflict Resolution for Holy Beings, bless the poets, the workers for justice, the dancers of ceremony, the singers of heartache, the visionaries, all makers and carriers of fresh meaning. We will all make it through, despite politics and wars, despite failures and misunderstandings. There is only love. So I hope, although I feel in sometimes in times like this, like I realize we will not all make it through, as many have passed and did not make it through. But my hope is that collectively, as a planet and as a human civilization, we would make it through instead of cutting the tree we are on. So with that, I wanted to start this journey by honoring time traveling lineages. This photo is from one of my most favorite places on earth. It's a place called Delhi Hut. It's a craft bazaar in Delhi, which has like stalls of art and craft from all over India, which I feel it's truly a gift to have been born and raised in India and to have India in my soul and in my veins. So this is my friend's daughter looking into, I don't know if you remember, so one of these kaleidoscopic beautiful magical shows of the past. So um, here, so going to India, even before my own time, I have been sitting a lot with these lines from ancient text called Nasadya Sukta, which is the hymn of creation in Rig Veda, which is our sacred, one of our many, many sacred texts in India. So what it says is, desire came upon that one in the beginning. That was the first seed of mine. Poets seeking in their heart with wisdom found the bond of existence and non-existence. So I feel also really uh, honored that this is the lineages is not just lineage of my lifetime. The lineage is also that I have inherited and that I'm a part of. You know. As what the rules and guidelines are. The laws are laid out. Let's see if we can mute somebody. 1 second, sorry. Okay. Thank you. If I may ask if you are able to mute yourself during the sharing part, that would be great. So yeah, so I feel, wait, how do I close this? Wait 1 second. I think my screen I'm trying to close. Hang on. Can you see my screen? 1 second. I'm trying to close it. You can only see my presentation, right, Lisa? Can you confirm?
We can see the photos that you were showing me. Yeah.
Okay, because I'm trying to close a window here. 1 second, because this thing popped up. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to just get out of this and go back. Okay, great. Yeah, so So I wanted to share these lines with you as a part of really honoring the lineages. And then something I really wanted to also share with is a glimpse of my mom and my grandmother. I have here with me this shawl. Can you see this shawl here?
In the photo? In the
Here
section?
in my video. Can you see my video?
Oh,
Right here.
oh,
Right here. Wait.
I was scrolling through the other photos to see if somebody was talking, had noise. Yes,
Right.
we can see
Yes.
your
Okay.
shawl.
So,
Okay.
this shawl, which is really so gorgeous, and it's one of my favorite things ever. I got it from my mom. I persuaded her to gift it to me. This is her shawl, and she stitched this gorgeous shawl while in medical school, in India, and I love it. And I wanted to share this. Along with this image you see here, right in the center, I'm wearing this shawl at a show by another really beautiful friend of mine, because the lineage is, when people say, when did you become interested in art? When did you observe an art piece? I feel I have from before I was conceived, I have been emerging as an artist, and I feel I will be long after I'm gone. And in this life, the creativity that I have received from my mother, who also she's a doctor and she's one of the most creative human beings who has been part of my life. I'm really carrying forward that legacy. And then here on left, the image that you see is the black and white image. Let me see if you can hear the sound. So this black and white image is my grandparents' home in Kanpur in North India. That's my mother sitting there. She's having sugar cane, fresh sugar cane, and behind her is my nani, her mother, and this is the porch of my grandparents' house. Here is my uncle, my mom's brother. So truly, the legacy of art for me is from my mom, my nani, and many, many, many women before them. I want to say also, elders, male elders in the family, and all men, and and people of all genders in my life. But I want to particularly recognize how important this lineage of women is to me. And here on the right side picture, you see that's me. It's one of my favorite photos with my mom, and a lot of people confuse me for her when I am in India. So with that lineage, my art is it's a tradition of really carrying forward a very diverse tapestry of Indian folk art traditions, which really speak to my spirit because they are rooted in earth stewardship. Environmentalism was not born, if I may say, as a woman who is an immigrant in America, even though America, even in America, people think that environmentalism only started with Rachel Carson. I feel even in America, there is a long history of incredible Black environmental leaders, indigenous environmental stewards, and I feel that heritage and from the country of my origin, the heritage of these art traditions, which have respect and love and reverence for nature as an integral part of being. I think it's just such an incredible core part of my own life. So Madhuban literally means a forest of honey, and this art form is from a central part of India where women would traditionally paint their houses, and then after a big drought in 1970s, as people were really suffering, as part of the cooperative collective movement, efforts were made to teach people to transfer the art to handmade paper so people could also generate income. So the only art class I have taken formally is a class I took from a Madhubani art teacher at a craft bazaar in my school. I think it was around my middle school. And so this art form really influences me. And as I'll show you my art, you'll see it has very embellished borders. Mostly, almost all of it has very embellished borders, and a combination of ink work and bright colors, which I've made even brighter to match my spirit. But it really comes from this tradition. Then this is another art form called Pattachitra, which is from Odisha, a state in eastern part of India, where from the bark of the tree, traditionally this canvas is made, and these very intricate patterns that have stories from mythology, oral folklore, from religion, and I have had the honor of visiting the community that practices this. So this is also another of the many folk art form tapestries. This is called, what you're seeing now, it's called Varli painting. It's from Western Ghats of India, and also done by indigenous communities, where they make this paste from rice flour, and very elaborate. These triangular forms are made on traditionally on mud huts and floor, and again with revival and efforts to really value and support this heritage over the years. A lot of artists have transferred this art form to paper as well. And so these are art forms that I had all around me as I was growing up. And here another one you see, it's called Gond art from central India. It also shares similarity with, if you've seen Aboriginal art from Australia, and actually also some art forms that I have seen and I've also learned in Eastern Africa. So I'm also always fascinated by how people, indigenous traditions that are geographically dispersed, how there are these intersections of both this thread of reverence, and also even stylistically, I feel, although each of them is really unique, but I find really fascinating the similarities. This one you see here is called kalamkari. Wait, yes. So this is done on fabric and really elaborate ink work, using natural dyes. And again, themes are, they're customized, region to region. Kalamkari itself comes from Andhra Pradesh, a state in southwestern India. I actually have something hanging right here, which is from the Kalamkari tradition. And then this one, as some of you may have seen, it's really close to my heart. This one, the image you see on the right is actually, I took it from my mother-in-law's house a few years ago in Chennai. It was during Pongal. These columns are sacred geometrical designs that are made on the floor. Traditionally, they are made every single day, and there are multiple reasons. They are done, to to welcome the day. They are done to keep away, to give food to ants and insects so they don't enter. But you give them food, you feed them. It's similar to. I feel like my nanny's house. You would always have a bird feeder. Where the wheat would be kept for the birds. And then there also, there's so many reasons connected with why columns are practiced and how different communities practice them differently. And they're really, for those of you who are scientifically, mathematically minded, these are some of the most intricate fractals in the world, and they are done by, I feel a lot of anthropology is very Western, white dominant, if I may say so. And these are women, and rural women, city women from southern India who have practiced and passed on these incredibly intricate patterns, and that are made on the floor. And you'll have glimpse of just a few of these here in the image I have. Then this one is henna, as some of you may have seen, and I learned how to put henna, as a child, and I took the right photo, and men, women, people of all genders put henna, and it's a big part of celebration rituals, whether it's wedding or childbirth. So also you'll see my art has influences, and it's almost a mosaic. And then I wanted to mention, I grew up in Delhi. Delhi has such amazing diversity and also history, which is really a potpourri, because we had the Mughal dynasty for many years before the Britishers came, for 200 plus years in India. So we have the stunning Islamic architecture that I grew up with, whether it's the Red Fort, or of course most people associate India with Taj Mahal, but that's just one of so many amazing, dazzling, intricate, styles of art forms that we have. And then this one, let me go back one. Yes, this one that you see here, this is at Khajuraho, which is a UNESCO World Heritage site in India. And I visited Khajuraho with my parents few years ago. And so the architecture is absolutely breathtaking. And then on the right, this is the last visit I was able to make with my parents just before the pandemic hit us all. It's a gorgeous Haveli in the state of Rajasthan, which is in the Thar Desert. So here you see me, my mom and I are modeling. My dad is semi-modeling in the image. But if you see the intricateness, like this, I'm always like amazed. Wow, these stunning buildings and art forms, which are across multiple disciplines, is just so amazing. So that's what I came with. That's really my roots that I wanted to share with all of you. And then I landed in America, as I was mentioning, those of you who were present earlier, my patron in chief, encourager in chief, Arvind is here to support me today as well. He is also a supporter of my artist in residency program that he himself coined during the pandemic. So I moved to America. After we got married, I moved from Delhi to DC, which is a tale of two capitals I hope to write about one day. Um, but I feel in many ways moving to America made me more Indian than I ever was. I like this saying. I read in a book on columns actually that even one's own tradition is not one's birthright. It has to be earned and repossessed. The old bards earned it by apprenticing themselves to the masters. One chooses and translates a part of one's past to make it present to oneself and maybe to others. One comes face to face with it, sometimes in faraway places, as I did. So I knew this would be really hard. This year is really hard. Just being an immigrant, it feels like, even with being immigrant of choice, it feels like an exile. So thank you for being with me with my, all my, all my emotions here today. So see, when I came to America, how it was related to my artist journey is really because I came from Delhi, which is, and India, which is so vibrant. You can see the colors I'm wearing today. This is the color I live in. I love bright colors. I heard one of the artists, I think one of the circles I was part of with SSTCI, she said, I've never met a bright color I haven't liked. So I think it's also my life story. But coming to America, I remember the energy is different. The color palette is different. DC, in comparison to me, was much more pastel and, compared to like the vibrancy that is India. And I remember my early days of being in America. I used to wear these gray suit pants. I think I had a gray and like a deep brown one, which I cannot believe how I did that. But I can, because I was trying to fit in so much, and it took a while to realize that you should not try to fit in when you're meant to stand out. So, and it's a kind of a ongoing like coming of age. I feel I'm always coming of age. I'm always coming of some age. So it took a while to realize, no, I'm going to reclaim my colors, and I'm going to have my flower. I'm going to have my bright colors. This is me. I am not trying to, I will no longer try to blend into, any place, instead of being something that is wholeness of myself. So that's a big part of my creative journey, as you'll see in my art. But also I feel life itself is art. I feel like I'm an artist of life, not just an artist of making art on paper. So that was really, really important to me. And then I would say another important part of that coming of age and ongoing life journey. And I thought that this is something really relevant to this time that we are holding, and particularly that immigrants are holding, and particularly immigrants of Indian origin. Like so much planetary grief right now, and so much grief for so many losses that India is going through, So this was fairly, I think, early parts of my coming to America. My husband Arvind and I, we experienced multiple miscarriages, and it was really devastating, And I feel for me, it was also really transformational, because you can let grief either make you bitter or make you better. So I feel every painting that I make, every poem that I write, it's I'm really expressing the creative life force that has chosen to flow through me in different forms to really heal both myself and the world. And that's what gives me hope that we can go through really devastating losses, really earth shattering, soul wrenching, losses. And somehow we also have in us this capacity to emerge and re-emerge and re-emerge, and to reincarnate, just not just in another life as we believe in the Hindu tradition, but to reincarnate ourselves in this life through darkness. So this is a poem I wrote, while reflecting on meaning making, which is really important to me in my practice. And some of you may know Viktor Frankl, who was a Holocaust survivor and also founder of logotherapy school of psychotherapy, which logo itself means meaning. So he said that those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. And it took me many years. I used to hold that, like his book and his words as the golden kernel, and there still are. And I had this realization one day that actually the meaning is not just given to you. You make meaning. You who excavate for meaning you make. And that meaning making is, I feel, just an integral part of my art of life of art. So with that backdrop, I want to take you all through some of my artwork, and how my art has evolved through those experiences of my nanny, my mom's shawl, which is sitting with me here today and loving me, and coming to America, rediscovering, reclaiming my palette, and going through really dark night of the soul, which I did not think I had capacity to come on the other side of. But what became such a beautiful ground of renaissance, through the time of grief. I started writing poetry for the first time in my life. I studied physics and economics, and I did not think I was quote unquote an artist. So I started writing poetry. I started making art, and some of you may know I co-founded Solar Sister, which is a global movement led by women to bring electricity to some of the most remote parts of the world, and by placing power in hands of women. So I feel all of it is part of my creative expression, and what holds it in the center is what is my guiding star in life, which is to practice beauty as a verb. That beauty is not something that it's not only something we see in the world. It's not just a noun. Beauty is how we live, and how we be in the world. So this was my first phase. I'll go fairly fast through these pieces, so we can have some time in the end for any questions and reflections. So this is my initial, as I was in the process of healing and never gone to quote unquote art school, which I don't think is necessarily a negative thing at all. I feel it opens amazing doors to be a self-learner. In beyond that one class like few hours I had spent during this big craft mela in the school, um, because I feel those lineages carry you. So this is one of my early art pieces called Rain Dance. As you may see in some other pieces, I'm obsessed with peacocks, which are always also the national bird of India, and they show up in so much mythology. I think all my homes I have had are filled with peacock imagery. So, and Lord Krishna, whom some of you may also be familiar with, who is a big figure in our religious and mythological traditions. He wears a peacock feather in his head, and I feel peacocks are, to me, I connect them with metamorphosis. So this is one of the early pieces. Then this piece that you see here, it's called the Circle of Life. It draws from both the traditional Madhubani traditions, but also mandalas really speak to me, and circles and sacred geometry really speaks to me. So lot of my art, when I sit to make art, I sit with the compass, and I have the rulers, I'm doing a lot of calculations of how I want to present and be with sacred geometry. So that's a big part of my work. This is also part of that early phase. I named this painting after a Walt Whitman poem, World Below the Brine, which is about how like if we knew there are all these battles and wars that happen, under the water. And it's also connected to also my concern for the oceans. We are water bodies ourselves. More than 70% of our own bodies are water, as is earth. And that is because we are earth bodies. We are earthlings ourselves, although we think we are separate from earth. So it's part of both meditating with and my care and concern for the water bodies. This painting is called Celebration. Its birth story is that it is inspired by this image in a diary my dad used to have when we were younger. There was when we had physical diaries with everybody's phone numbers and addresses of whoever you knew. And I loved that diary because for every month it had a painting from different art form from India. So I remember I was just a bit melancholic at some point here in US, and I told my dad I really missed that diary. So he literally tore all the pages of the paintings and he scanned it for me, and he said, I've sent it to you. Now you have it forever. So I just feel like his love, he did not even think twice before tearing that whole diary off so he could scan it for me with all his like love and accuracy. So this painting is inspired by an image in that diary. This one, it's called We Bloom. It is inspired really by a lot of Islamic architecture. You may also find, if you have been to Spain, which I have not, but I love to travel the world through books and online galleries and research. So a lot of like Spanish tiles, also have really, or Catalina tiles, they have these gorgeous, stunning like symmetry and color. Of course, all of it becomes like an amalgamation of everything I am. So it's not just one influence. I feel the work that I do becomes influence of all these things that move me. This one is another mandala painting, and the pattern you see in the center is inspired by rangoli, which is like kolam, is also an art form that we do with flowers and with natural powders, these geometric patterns that we make on floor. So this was really the first phase of my art making, where I was just exploring, making, and I feel deeply really healing myself. And it's not that healing is I feel it's not a linear process. From speaking for myself, I'm forever healing from something, and life and the world and so much planetary grief and private grief. But I feel the first phase of my art making was really deeply, deeply private, and the second phase was both private and collective. That how do I not just heal myself, but uh, one, through healing myself, how do I help heal the world, and how do I really be consciously in community and in relationship with other human beings, and in relationship and community, whether it's with social justice movements that I care about, or these intersections of communities I'm a part of, how both the self and the collective healing can be nurtured. So this phase of work that you are going to see in next few slides is emergent from that the self and the collective coming together. So this painting here, it's called Baobab Dreams of a Peacock. So, I spent time in East Africa. I lived in Uganda, Tanzania as part of my climate justice work with Solar Sister, as I was co-creating and supporting my amazing sisters there to build this grassroots climate movement. And while there, I got to see the most magnanimous, magnificent baobab trees in Tanzania in particular, and they're just so beautiful and ancient. I feel like I want to give it a hug, but it would literally, I think, take 50 people to give a baobab tree a hug because they're like so massive, and they're also threatened by climate change. So this painting, Baobab Dreams of a Peacock, is really my both love and awe and wonder and concern for baobabs. And as you see, the peacocks again make appearance because I love them, and I feel it's coming together of my Indian soul, which to me is deeply related to a peacock and the baobab that you see here in this image. Then this next piece that you see, it's called Open Secret of the Imperishable Banyan Tree. This is inspired by my ecological, historical, sociological connection with the banyan tree, which, there's a banyan tree, which one, the one you see on the right bottom of the screen. It's a banyan tree near my grandparents' home in North India. And we revere banyan trees. There's I remember my mom during a particular ceremony, she would bring a banyan tree leaf and we would literally worship it. And then there are ceremonies where women would tie this thread around the banyan tree, and there are multitude of stories which would take a whole session just about banyan tree itself, but to give you a glimpse. So this and the paint, the borders of this painting has lines from Bhagavad Gita, which is one of our sacred texts, which talks about the nature of reality and nature of illusion, because the banyan tree is almost like an inverted tree because its branches are aerial roots, and the dark side of banyan tree is also, as here in US, is very hard history. In America, in India's history, Britishers used banyan trees to lynch people, you know so so it's also associated because they knew it's a sacred tree. They used to hang people who were fighting for freedom. So there are all these layers of banyan tree in this painting, and also the holy trinity of Hinduism, which is, there is a creator, there is a destroyer, and there is a preserver, and one is not better than other. All three are part of the cycle of life. So the symbols in this painting are linked to a lot of those like symbology. Then this painting you see here, it's called Remembering Nana's Lotus and Neelkant. The bird you see on your screen here is called Neelkant. It literally has a blue throat, and it is now also really endangered because of poaching across India. So this painting is a coming together of stories of Neelkant bird, and in the center you see lotus, which is very sacred in India, and to me it has a deeper meaning, in addition to the mythological meanings, because when my mom visited me in 2017, last time from India, I had never heard this. She told me that her dad, my nana, would always tell her that, Bitya, be like a lotus, like daughter, you should be like a lotus, look like lotus grows in this mud and swamp, but how it has evolved to transcend the swamp and all the muckiness. So so it has a symbology of the lotus, the Neelkant bird, which is related to also an origin story in India, and the turtle, which when I made this painting I didn't know that, but I found out as my own reading and knowledge have deepened that America itself is the turtle island, right? So I imagine that I'm the turtle in between the time machines that you see. So I feel there are multiple associations in this painting, and I just love its magical light, and it literally glows, when you see it. And this painting you see here, it's called Perennial Dreams of a New Reality. It came out of an amazing fellowship program I did with social leaders, social justice leaders from around the world. So it's inspired by particularly like recognizing dignity, knowledge, wisdom of Black, indigenous people of color here in America and around the world. So that's what informed this painting. So that was the second phase of my art being, which brings me to this moment in, I want to say, her story, not just his story, and which is about art in and through the times of this pandemic. So there's few pieces I want to share that I made in this past year. This is called the Peace Tree, Shanti Mantra Earth Meditations. Peace Tree, at heart of it is a Shanti Mantra, which is a peace prayer, which I listened a lot to in the early days of the lockdown. It was just so much jitters and anxiety, and I would say so much tightness in the body with all the fear of the lockdown, which was just so unprecedented, in our lifetimes. So I was listening to Shanti Mantra a lot, and the mantra is about peace in the physical realm, in the spiritual realm, and the psychological realm. And at the same time, I was also reading Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from Birmingham jail, where he talks about a negative piece and a positive piece, right? A negative piece is absence of conflict, and positive piece is actually presence of justice. So this painting is really a blend of the Indian peace prayer and that wish for a positive peace rooted in justice. And it brought me, I think it really calmed my nerves during early part of the pandemic. Um, this another piece on the yin and yang, and the concept of Ardhanarishwar in Indian tradition, which is an androgynous being of Shiva, both Shiva and Parvati coming together, and so it's about earth justice. Uh, this piece is about the dualities of night and day, life and death. Then this piece was really a reflection on space, because during the pandemic I was thinking a lot about one, space travel, because I read a lot of science fiction to travel far away, and also space, like physically, as we are sharing more space with family, or in my case with my partner, what does space mean? How much space do we need? How much space do we take? So this painting was a bit of a meditation. This painting is inspired by Indra's web, which is both in Buddhism and also in Hinduism. And the idea being that the whole world is a spider web, and it's a fractal. And we are all interdependent. Like no part of the interweb can really survive if any part of it is suffering. So I feel that is so poignant and so powerful for earth justice and planetary justice in the world. And then finally, few digital pieces. I just made this piece yesterday for a call for art by Amplifier, which is an organization which supports social justice causes. So they had this call on health equity, and as some of you may be aware, there is a massive vaccine apartheid in the world because of the patent protections and hoarding of vaccines. The developing world does not have equitable access to vaccine making technology and capacity and patents to make sure that people do not die left, right, center because of these second wave of COVID. And because the truth is that all our lives are interdependent, so nobody is safe till all of us are safe. So uh, so that's what this art piece came about. And then last year for me, in this sense, the lockdown was very creative, and this is also my privilege. I want to acknowledge that I was able to focus on learning so many new technologies of art making also. So you'll see here. So this, I call them motion poems, to really uh, yeah, marry again both environmental concern and consciousness raising, so more people can become earth stewards. And then I just have a few more pieces. This is another piece which is about earth stewardship. Just briefly play it for you. So this is really, about the connection of like that environmental well-being and human well-being is deeply tied together. And uh, any environmentalist, I feel, who deeply cares for lasting sustainability must not ignore how human well-being is, because we are a part of nature, really. And then I made this piece for the Earth Day. Here, wait. So this says, Mother Earth wants you to know your old umbrella will not work in new storms. In a changing climate, you need reimagination, unlike all the ever befores. So it's really a call to action, and the umbrella is actually, it's a it's a digital work on umbrella. My friend Jennifer, who's here, gave me. It's the most magical iridescent umbrella in the world. So thank you, Jen, for helping me transform it. And then this is a kaleidoscope I made for my very first music video this past year with my creative collaborator, Arvind. His album came out, Gajananam, for his band. And here you see this is a kaleidoscope I made using my art and converting that into digital motion. Arvind, if you're hearing, if you could share the link to the video maybe in the chat box, that would be great. It's also part of my kaleidoscope lab. And this is finally just to take you through, just so you know, how do these look as it starts on a blank sheet of paper. And then I add the layers and I add the borders. And then finally I do um, very fine ink work, usually with a variety of ink pens. And here on the right, you see this final butterfly piece. And right now I'm working on, it's done. Hopefully it will emerge soon. I've just been too much taken by grief for India. A series called Murmuration, which is related to the birds' patterns, murmurations that birds make, these gorgeous, amazing patterns, which have so many lessons for sustainability for us. So, the series is a meditation and also a call to action, to sustainability by learning from birds. And with that, I really wanted to come to the close of my sharing by just a thought on enoughness. I've thought a lot about enoughness in this past year. Um, what is enough? What is enough space? What is enoughness in oneself? what is enoughness in our communities. And I really feel for me that I am enough and I have enough space. So where I am today, if you are able to see when we in a moment as I close this presentation, I'll show you. Um, I am so happy to be in my studio with you, and because my studio is not just food for my art soul and my heart soul, it's literally, it feeds me. My studio is my dining table in my community here in Silver Spring. So, and it's a part of, it's a part of the dining table area that I have converted into studio, and I have a portable drafting table that I use for my art making. And I feel it's enough. Do I need to make the like really massive art pieces? Is only big art, or is only having a massive studio, is that what makes you an artist? Or selling the biggest things, having most followers? I don't think so. I think I'm enough, and the world is enough. So yeah, so thank you for joining me for that whirlwind journey I wanted to share with all of you. Maybe we'll have, if you're able to, maybe we'll have 10 minutes for any questions, and then be mindful of all of your time to go into the night. So just want to open it up. Anybody, any thoughts, questions, feel free to unmute yourself.
Wonderful, Neha. It was really, really a wonderful journey with you. And I know a lot of people had some questions and comments to share. There were some nice comments in the chat. These motion poems are amazing, was one of them. So who would like to ask a question or share a thought with Neha? Brenda.
Hi, Neha. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. It was really beautiful. I wanted to know, so I have two requests. Well, one request and one question. Can you say at the beginning the blessing in your language? I feel like it would be so beautiful. And then also, could you also talk about what kind of dye is used, and is it mainly women who do the art?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so maybe I'll take the second one first, Brenda. So the dye, traditionally what people use, were natural dyes made with flowers and, minerals and leaves or rice flour. And now a lot of even folk artists, they are also using acrylic paints, as they are trying to share the work on a larger scale. And there's a movement for more sustainable uh, paints and more larger access to like naturally sourced dyes and colors as well. When I first started painting, I remember here I tried to find out more about more natural like companies making more natural colors. I found like few like I would say very small number of companies or in amounts that were like made like with natural colors. But my hope is really this natural color movement, like with tie and dye, people do use. My hope is not just here with me being in here in America, but I hope even the folk artists who are making the works on much larger scale to sustain themselves, they will also have access to these more sustainably made and sourced colors as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just thinking when I saw the picture on the houses, so beautiful, and I was thinking, well, when it rains,
Yeah, and
it
actually,
rains,
one
it
of
would.
the but I think they protect it well. Also, the layering that they do, like the local varnishes that they use, and
Okay.
the touch up they do. Actually, one of the artists I met in Odisha, he actually showed me the brush which was made of okay, hold your breath, some of you, a rat's tail. you know the but the fine work he showed me, that was what was used, and I believe he did not harm the rat. This was like natural process of life. So yeah, so but my hope is the whole process can be sustainable. And the first one, it's in Sanskrit, so I'll share with you. I'll do a private reading for you in Sanskrit, which was a language of my grandma and which I learned in school. But let me hold it, maybe towards
Sure.
the
I was
end.
wondering if it was Sanskrit. Thank
It
you,
was
Neha.
it's in Sanskrit. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
See, Fid has a question. Fid.
Hello. Hi, Neha. Thank you. It's so lovely to see your work, especially as I met you through your work many years ago. My question for you is, you talked about meaning making in your work, and also I think sometimes it can be a solitary process to make these pieces. So what would be your advice, or maybe just thinking around, like, how do you sustain the practice? Like, how do you keep seeking towards meaning making when it could be a very unknown space, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think you're one. Hi, Fid. Everyone, Fid is my dear friend, inspiration, an amazing artist, photographer, storyteller, human being, earthling. So welcome. Yeah, I think the answer is in your question. Being with the unknown, and I feel being okay with the unknown, like a sense of surrendering to the unknown and not having this obsessive need to know everything. I feel being comfortable with mystery. For me, big part of my art making is leaning into the mystery and let mystery lean into me. So it's very sacred practice, and even like being with all of you today, this is the first time I have shared like this, like the whole arc of my life story, including some really like the story of deep losses. I'm sure like a lot of you who have known us for a very long time would not know, like that is part of our story also. So I feel, yeah, being with uncertainty, unknowing, and that dichotomy, that knowing and unknowing, as it says in Tao Te Ching, that the knowing and not knowing goes together. you know and I feel it's also related to, like, for me, my art is deeply private, but it's also collective. For me, art disconnected from community, it's not for me. Which is why I struggle as with the idea of some of like art residencies which want to send you in a cabin in a jungle to make art, which I know works for a lot of people. Cabin in a jungle and no human being inside. I love human beings. I love my dining table. I love that my dining table is my soul food in so many ways. This is where I make my breath, my family's breath, and my art. So I feel that intersection of being with, and it's a dance, right? Because you're not always with the collective at the same time. There is a rhythm to it, like seasons. Yeah. Thank you, Faith.
Okay. Someone else have a question? Catrice?
Hi, Neha. My question is sort of two-part, but I've been interested in wondering. I know for me, art is very centering, and I love the fact that you just mentioned that it's very private and personal. It is. There's no other place it can come from, that deep well. So, my interest is, given what's happening right now in India. My initial question was to ask you if you found that your art has finally tethered you and kept you tethered as long as you keep doing it to your homeland. But given what's happened in India and working through grief, but also working through not just the grief of people, but the grief of culture, do you feel that working within your art right now is keeping you centered and healed and sending positivity back home in a way that is tangible?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. And hi, Catrice. Catrice is my creative sister, and we are pandemic loves. We fell in love during the pandemic
We
at
are.
at a SSTCI event. So, yeah, I feel, for me, I feel to make beauty in an ugly world is an act of revolution.
Yes. Yes.
And there's a reason lot of people know I wear a flower always, people, always. uh, and it's not just because I love flowers, it's true, but it's also a reminder to me to be soft in a hard world is also revolution. When the world was open and I was traveling so much, the way my flower would soften people, like like at airports and security, somebody will look at me in a very like stern way, and suddenly they would see the flower and they'd be like, oh. And just like that, very like in microsecond, the transformation that would happen. So I feel both being art and being a being of art and making art, I feel it is such a revolution, both in this time and in all times. So I know my nerves are literally soothed when I sit and make art, and I know it's not just private, in the sense that because I'm deeply connected to the universe, uh, when I comfort myself, some microchip of the universe, I'm also maybe soothing and healing, and being a person who is really I'm very high on empathy test, so which is also my Achilles heel, because I feel so much. So I feel I'm also able to channel it. It's truly like channeling. So I do feel it is all of that. It's a pilgrimage, it's a revolution, and it's also stargazing, star making, all of it, and medicine. Yeah, you know and I hope more people would realize that what a medicine of art we need. I hope our public health money would go, in supporting artists, art making, and healing communities through art making. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Catrice. Hey, Erin Joan, I see you. Do you want to ask anything? And welcome.
Thank you. Well, mainly we want to say it is so amazing. You are our neighbor 2 doors away. I don't know how many people are still left here, but it's so wonderful to have this time with you, because we don't see you in person. And even in person, we never get into such profound topics, I fear. But I just want to say, I am so glad that you left your palette. We missed you. We've only known you when you went back to your original palette, where your colors and vibrancy and flowers in your hair, and the fact that we have lived next door to you all these years has been pretty amazing. But what has been so nice is Ed and I went to India, and we only spent, 3 weeks there? Not enough, but India is so different from the United States, and I never could understand how can anybody from India adjust to living in this gray place. But Neha has done it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erin Joan. Thank you so much. And actually, yes,
Oh,
Ed, go ahead.
Well, I would just say that too. I'm very moved by your presentation and all of the thoughts that you've expressed here, Naya. And but I see having gone to India, and Joan said to me, you to understand the beauty of and the colors. You alluded at one point to the a very nice word that I'm not bringing back to mind, but kind of the beauty or activity of India.
Maybe
And
vibrancy.
vibrancy, I think it was your term. And Joan was saying, you can't know that without going to India. And I would say, you can go a great deal toward knowing it from being exposed to Neha.
From knowing you, Neha.
That you just, you bring so much, and you're so kind of committed to and growing out of or with your background, and you bring so much
Thank you.
to this tonight and to us generally. And you just, this has just been wonderful.
Thank you.
But I do think
Thank you.
also the extremes you see in India of so many people so obviously terribly poor, and yet so many people so obviously colorful and beautiful, and the houses and everything.
And rich.
So many things are painted, and so many buildings. It's just the color of India is just overwhelming, and your art reflects that so well.
Thank you so much, Ed and Joan. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I also want to just add here, again, I know I said it, but I want to acknowledge even more so my patron, Arvind, whose beautiful face you see today. He created a residency for me at beginning of the pandemic. It's called its translation is return to your nature, return to your true nature. So we all need patrons, we all need friends. Like I have so many of you. Oh, I'm so happy to see so many of you here. And nobody does it alone. Anybody who claims they do it alone is lying or delusional. So thank you, my patron and friends and neighbors and all humans.
Neha, I have a question.
Yes, Glenn. Hi.
Oh,
Hi,
Glenn,
I
hi.
want to know when some of your paintings are going to be available as prints.
Oh yes, I owe Glenn a print like for 100 years. You are going to get it the first. Now that I am fully vaccinated, the chances are looking very, very optimistic within coming months, Glenn.
Okay. Great.
Thank you so much. And Glenn is another
Okay.
wonderful neighbor and supporter and a patron of my art. Thank you so much.
And
Right.
also, Glenn is also a scientist, right? Yes. And so it's good to see you, Glenn. Our next comment is coming from a fellow artist, the wonderful doll maker Camilla Bryce Laporte. Hi, Camilla. Good to see you.
I wanted to,
Thank you for being here.
it was beautiful. Your work is stunning. I wanted to ask you, it's so precise. Is it, when you're doing your work, is it spontaneous? Is it planned? Are you in a meditative state? That's how it looks. And does it take over when you're doing it?
When I'm at like the heart of it, Camilla, and you wait, before that, let me just say thank you so much for coming here.
Oh, no.
And everyone, you need to know Camilla is the most magical doll maker in the world. I had the privilege to be in one of the art circles we did, with SSTI and a partner. So please note her name, Google her name, find her, because she is so amazing, wonderful magic maker and elder. So thank you so much. And my answer, yeah, so it is definitely a zone. But like to get there, I feel you have to honor the muse for the muse to honor you. So I feel and like there's a mix, like some of my work, I have been doing more research this last year, but I have to balance it out, like the banyan tree painting. I did a lot of research of the ecological history, mythological stories, going into Bhagavad Gita, asking my mom for stories around banyan tree. And with all that knowing, maybe this is what Fid's question was, then you have to let go and let what wants to come through to come through, right? And I feel I have different levels of preparation with different paintings. And I'm just very mindful to not be sucked into, please do not mind my Western orientation friends, to be not sucked into the Western planning, productivity mindset with art, because you can't demand mystery to flow through you. Mystery flows when mystery flows. I should write a poem about that.
But your art is very rhythmic, very mathematical. I was looking, I was like, what is inspiring this? Every line counts. Every line counts. And even in the writing, there is a magic to the spacing in the words. I can't read them, but I can feel them. And the birds, where everything counts. So I'm very impressed.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me, Camilla. Thank you.
Everything is.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
And
you.
I think another fellow artist has something to share. Jennifer, good to see you.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Neha. I arrived tonight with this word on my mind, supply. I don't know why that word was here, but I tend to do things as I listen. I have a new toy, which for anyone who has to ever be on Zoom, I totally recommend a spirograph. Let your childhood return. But so as I listened, I realized that supply word was gonna be joined by your spirit and your essence. And so I just want to share what the words that joined up were. And you are offering us, Neha, a soft supply mystery. It is rooted in the divine caregivers of your lineage. It is in the traditions that run in your blood. This is a time of rebalancing, reckoning and rebalancing. And the soft supply is what we are returning to. And what a great mystery for us all. So I just
thank you so much,
Jen.
Jen.
And I love you.
And everybody, Jen is another of my patron sister, piece of my heart. And speaking of supply, one final thread before we close the circle. Thank you for staying and being generous with your time. I want to show you two supply pieces. This is one. Because I don't need these. I don't know why so many of stuffings are there, some of you may know. So I use these. I'm making these art pieces because I just use them to clean my brushes. So maybe I imagine one day I'll have a big stuffing art piece. Speaking of supplies and sustainability, to use what we have. And then, these like the packaging that comes, I've also been using the packaging for my paint mixing, and like the other day, this broke, by the way, like the the vegetable chopper, no problem, because this will become my artboard. It's perfect. So speaking of supply and sustainability, so yeah, so
Neha, I have a question.
yes.
I'm always interested in symbolism within cultures, and since you know color is so important to you, do you in India do you have the same meanings and symbolisms and associations of colors that we have in Western society generally? Like green can either be money or health or the environment, kind of
Right.
purple is
It-
royalty.
Right. One, it's not the same, Lisa. And I would say India itself is not a monolith. So within India, it changes. And also, I would acknowledge that India also has a lot of social ills. So a lot of interpretations are colonial, Victorian sense of what is good and what is bad, what is, what is, yeah, I feel for me, because I'm reading Natya Ras, which is the ancient text on performing arts. So it has 9 rasas, like joy, horror, disgust, compassion, like that. It has 9 human emotions, and every emotion is associated with the color. But I read it, but I don't necessarily accept all of it, because for me, the title of this talk, Reclaiming, is and maybe this is about me now being in my 40s. I will make the meaning I want. I will take what I want. I will read what I want, but I will make my own brand of meaning, So yeah, so that, and with that, I realize it's 8:30. So I want to share with this tiny poem by Joy Harjo, and then maybe we can take a deep breath into this lamp that we lit earlier. And everyone, please make art, be art, and please stay connected. And thank you for sharing your time and presence with me. So this poem is called Eagle Poem by Joy Harjo. She says, to pray you open your whole self to sky, to earth, to sun, to moon, to one whole voice that is you. And know there is more that you can't see, can't hear, can't accept, in moments steadily growing, and in languages that are not always sound, but other circles of motion. Like eagle, that Sunday morning over Salt River, circled in blue sky, in wind, swept our hearts clean with sacred wings. We see you, see ourselves, and know that we must take the utmost care, that we must take the utmost care and kindness in all things. Breathe in. Breathe in knowing we are made of all this, and breathe knowing we are truly blessed because we were born. We are truly blessed because we were born and die soon within a true circle of motion. Like eagle rounding out the morning inside us. We pray that it will be done. We pray that it will be done in beauty, in beauty. So with a collective breath, thank you so much. And I hope you would continue your own reclaiming and art making. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Neha. It's always such a healing and transformational time to spend with you. And you mean so much to our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you to
Bye.
everyone for joining us. Bye-bye.